What's up, everybody? Welcome to Rats on Film, the show where a bunch of film rats talk about and rank movies. Today on the show, we are talking about Deadpool and Wolverine, but not just the new movie, all the Deadpool and Wolverine movies, the 6 in total. On the show with me today, I have Tristan.
Hello.
Jonnie.
Maximum effort.
And I'm your host, Xander. Welcome to the show, everybody.
Maximum effort in this podcast. I'm ready to go. It's 10:23 p.m. I'm chugging coffee. I like X-Men. I love X-Men. I don't just like X-Men.
Jonnie, big X-Men
Jonnie
guy.
does love X-Men.
The
big
biggest
X-Men,
X-Men fan I know.
And only good movies in X-Men. So I'm ready to pop off and say how much they're all good.
Yeah. Wait until we do Dark Phoenix.
We have not done... most of the rats are big superhero movie people. At least we all like them. And we've not done any superhero movies on the podcast yet. So this is the first. No MCU stuff yet. No Fox stuff yet. No DC. So this is the first. There'll be more down the road. But, you know, the new Deadpool and Wolverine movie just came out. So we're starting there. And we were discussing it. And we came to the observation that there are 6 movies, 3 each, of the solo movies. I know Wolverine's in a billion movies, but there's 3 solo Wolverine movies, one of which includes Deadpool, and there are 3 solo Deadpool movies, one of which includes Wolverine. So we thought it'd be a pretty good way to group them up and do a list of the 6. Does that include Deadpool and Wolverine?
That takes place after X-Men, or at like in between X-Men Origins Wolverine, like that flashback sequence in the beginning.
That's right.
Logan goes and talks to Zac Efron and is a great showman.
He's great. He's the greatest.
Troy from High School Musical, and it's also got MJ. I've never seen the movie.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right, so let's get into this because we got a couple movies to cover today. Starting out with a classic. Right off the bat, Jonnie said no bad X-Men movies. Starting off with X-Men Origins Wolverine from 2009.
Good film.
Classic. It was a movie.
And you know what else was good? The video game based on the film was a cool
that was
game.
Very good.
The video game is good. That is actually, Tristan, one of my earliest memories with you is playing that game together.
That game somehow is infinitely better than the movie.
This movie is, I rewatched it because I had to, because I saw it I think one time when it came out, and it is what I remembered it being. It wasn't better, it wasn't worse, it was exactly what I thought it was.
So it was good. I didn't rewatch it because I didn't need to, because it's burned into my memory as a good memory.
Yeah, that's a thing.
The thing about it is that they basically did it in X-Men 2.
Yeah.
And it's just way better done in X-Men 2.
That's a fair point.
And I feel like this is the start of where Fox's X-Men movies kind of have the timeline and retcon issues with this movie that it's just all over. Like you said, they do it in X-Men 2. It's fine. You get your resolution of what happened to Logan. And then in X-Men Origins Wolverine, it's like, we're changing everything.
If you're familiar with the Fox X-Men universe, you're not familiar with it because it makes no sense. And you just have to accept that going into it. There's simply no continuity to be seen anywhere, including in Deadpool and Wolverine, which just came out, which we will get to.
I will say I do like Hugh Jackman's performance because he's great as Wolverine in general. So that's probably the biggest crowning achievement. It does introduce us to Deadpool, albeit not the one we're used to.
So what is it that you guys don't like about it? Is it like the magic bullet? Is it the fact that none of the characters are consistent? Is it the fact that Gambit's kind of dumb?
I think the concept in general of Wolverine and Sabretooth kind of being these 2 similar characters, they kind of go on a similar path and they just diverge, and one of them and ultimately goes the hero route and one of them goes the villain route, is actually kind of an interesting
It should have focused on that. They're 2 sides of a coin, and that's always interesting.
Yeah, the kind of thing they lose it, I feel like, where they try and act like Logan doesn't realize what's going on. He goes like hundreds of years with Sabretooth just killing mercilessly, and then one day he just goes, I'm over this.
Yeah. He like just flips a switch. Like, you just participated in like 200 years worth of wars.
Right.
And so it would have been nice to see, like we were talking about, like that progression of him. You kind of see it in the montage, especially like the last one in Vietnam, but that's about it. And then it's just that heel turn in the main movie.
There's actually kind of, like you said, Johnny, the two sides of the coin would have been an interesting thing to kind of focus on. And they just kind of do that all at once. And then the rest of the movies, he just goes, I want revenge on Sabretooth. And then the resolution is he goes, I'm not like you, so I won't kill you.
That's my favorite trope in movies, where there would be scenes where the good guy kills like hundreds of people, and then they get to the ultimate bad guy and they're like, you know what? I'm not like you. I won't kill you. It's like, well, that's the one guy maybe you should kill. Like, you killed a lot of minions
all the
to
henchmen.
Get here.
Yeah.
And they were
Tell that to all the people's families that you just...
Yeah, like, but that's probably my favorite trope. Really good.
So we usually say that the first movie we talk about starts on the top of the list. I'm going to amend it for this episode. I'm going to say it starts on the bottom of the list.
So you're starting it at 6?
Yeah.
No, I disagree. Well,
I guess.
No, yeah, it has to be. Like, I want to support it, but it's not better than the other one.
It's simultaneously 1 and 6.
No, it's just 6.
All right, moving on to The Wolverine, 2013.
This is a cool movie.
It's a very
this movie's cool.
I really like this movie. I think what's good about it is it's unique. I think a lot of these movies tread on the same things again and again, like especially Origins, right? You're like, X2 already told us this story, but now you're just changing it and making it worse. This is taking the character, putting him in a different setting. It's visually different. All new characters besides him. Different set pieces, opportunities, different fighting styles because he's fighting different people. Like, I think all of that makes this exciting movie.
I think the coolest part to me is that they depower him, right? Talking about making it different and making it unique, taking away his healing factor and watching. There's something to both Deadpool and Wolverine when you watch action sequences where a lot of the stakes are taken out of it because you know they can't die.
Yeah, you have to create stakes in other things.
In this one, they do a good job where actually they reintroduce stakes for him as a character because inexplicably he's not healing anymore. And I think that's a cool, interesting dynamic that does set this apart from all the other X-Men movies and all the other movies with Wolverine in it, where literally he just walks towards bullets and doesn't care.
Yeah.
And then in this one, he's like, oh, I'm actually trying not to get shot because it hurts and then I don't heal. And I'm going to need a vet to fix me up.
I also think that this is a good use of how you guys were talking about in Origins, how you don't like his portrayal in the wars over time. I think that this is a good use of it because the origin of it is of him saving a soldier during the bombing of Hiroshima. So it's showing how he is a heroic character. You know what I mean? Despite being in these wars, like he's just saving somebody just because he can. And then the repercussions of that so many years later. Like, I think that that's really interesting. And it keeps it simple, right? It's not like, oh, look at him in all these different wars. It's like one war, one moment, one guy, and what that leads to.
Right.
Yeah. That opening sequence does more to establish Wolverine having that sense of morality and what's right and wrong than the opening sequence of X-Men Origins Wolverine. Like you said, the action set pieces in this movie are just so much better than I think they've ever been for Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. I feel like he's fighting people that are more capable in the Yakuza. He does a lot of cool and interesting things with his claws in this movie that we don't usually see him do.
The bullet train sequence is really cool.
Yes.
It's probably the best Wolverine fight sequence out of all of them. If you were
probably.
To pick
I really like that
out
one.
of any of the movies, even the X-Men movies too.
They do really creative stuff with it. I mean, I love the bit where they're jumping over the signs as it's coming and he fakes jumping and the other guy jumps up and just gets slammed by the sign.
Yeah.
It's really clever. It's defying of expectations. I like that instead of just him slicing people up with claws.
Well, and I agree with what Tristan's saying too. I think him fighting other people with swords lends itself well to his fighting style. Like, as opposed to him chasing down people with guns and just stabbing them, right? That's a lot of his fights in other movies. But in this one, it's like a sword fight, but he's just got a weird sword.
Yeah, and the sequence where he's fighting, when he gets his healing factor back, it was so good.
Yeah.
When he takes that stab, the sword right through him, and just pulls it out.
Yeah. Just
pretty sick.
Yeah. Very cool.
I think this movie benefits from being a smaller, more focused story, and how the antagonist is not somebody trying to kill all mutants. This is an adversary that wants to take advantage of him specifically, and that's all it is, right?
I will say my one knock on this movie is, and this is source material, but I don't love the Wolverine obsessing with Jean Grey, living his whole life obsessed with Cyclops' girlfriend slash wife, depending on the time. It's not my favorite part of his character, and this movie is very reliant on that as sort of his motivating factor. So that's probably my one knock on it.
I will say the other knock I have for this movie is the end, the big CGI fight with the robot, the android.
It doesn't live up to the other fights.
Because literally the sequence leading up to that, where he's kind of fighting the ninjas in the snow in the street, that was visually really cool. And following that up with kind of just like your traditional CGI kind of fight, to quote Deadpool from Deadpool 2, ooh, big CGI fight.
Yeah. All right, so I assume we're all going to agree to put this above X-Men Origins.
This movie's underrated. People don't talk about this movie a lot. It never really gets brought up, but I like it.
Yeah. I think it's
solid one.
Overshadowed a lot by Logan.
Moving on then to the next one on the list, Deadpool 2016. Do you guys remember when the test footage leaked?
I do.
Yeah. I was very invested in that.
That was crazy.
Ryan Reynolds just came out on like a lie detector thing with Hugh Jackman and said, "May I had an assist in leaking that." So he's.
I love I don't want them to tell how it happened. I love the mystery of it.
Yeah.
I like that. That's
They
fine.
definitely
Him
did it
saying
on
that.
purpose. I'm convinced. I don't need to be told.
It's cool. That came out, and everybody just kind of went, "I'd watch a whole movie of this. This is interesting." It's very unique at the time too for superhero movies.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Because at that point there hadn't been like a rated R superhero movie that's like ultra violent, crass like that.
I mean, Deadpool is maybe the most specific comic book character. I don't think I would ever fault anybody for saying they didn't like Deadpool or the Deadpool movies if it's just not your sense of humor. And yeah. I also wouldn't fault the Deadpool movies for being what they are, because I feel like they should be their specific self and be their own thing, because it does kind of set them apart. The tone is very different. The style of comedy is very different. And I appreciate that about them.
I agree.
I think one of the best things done with this movie is it had no budget. Sometimes limitations in various ways really, really breed creativity, because if you don't have money to throw at problems, for example, there's other limitations you could have, but if you don't have money to throw at problems, the movie is so deliberate and so specific, and every scene serves a purpose that it needs to do to be really economical and really efficient at either being really funny or moving the plot along for this character.
Yeah, getting the most out of something simple.
Yeah.
I love this movie too. I think it's really good.
So good.
And I think going back to the test footage, everybody watched that test footage and was like, this rules, this is amazing. And then the movie comes out and it stays true to the test footage for the entire movie. I mean, the test footage is almost the exact same scene. Like, there's a couple of little differences. Yeah. But then the rest of the movie, which then they had to write and proceed to make, stays true to it, I feel.
Yeah, definitely. The test footage was so Deadpool, and then everyone's like, we'll watch this, and then they took that and were like, okay, then we're gonna do it exactly that way, and it works out so well. And the story is, like you were saying, it's very tight and concise, and it doesn't go off and do anything that it doesn't need to do.
I think another thing that does a great deal for the movie, Ryan Reynolds is clearly very passionate about the character. And he puts a lot, you can tell he puts a lot of effort and maximum effort into them.
Yeah. He truly understands the character, though, in a way that I don't know that all actors playing their respective superhero understand the character on a comic book level. Going back to Wolverine Origins, the whole reason this movie got made is because he was cast in that, right? Was like, I love this character. I've always loved it. I've always felt like I could do a great job. They completely butcher it, embarrassingly, and he feels like he needs to right the wrong, and then he ultimately does it. And they didn't even want him to do it. That's why it's so great. It's like he had to prove that it was worth doing to the internet with the test footage and everything, and then he does it justice the way that Hollywood couldn't without his help.
I also think it's a testament that Ryan Reynolds is in the suit as like often as he can. Yeah. And when he's not, he's putting on, Lord knows how much time that makeup puts on to make him look the way he does when he's out of mask. But that's how committed he is. And like it comes through when he's in the suit and his mannerisms and the way like you see Deadpool interact with people. It's like you can tell that like Ryan Reynolds is, he's very good with the physical humor of not being able to be this handsome leading man and he's relying on the script and the jokes and his physical interactions with castmates and in the story, and it's really good.
And the movie's really funny. I think they really nailed the humor in this one.
I think the jokes, because I did rewatch this one a few weeks ago, I feel like it still holds up. The Zamboni joke is still really good.
There's a good sense of humor to the Deadpool movies. I mean, it works for the character.
For me, I think the opening scene of this movie is one of the most memorable ones of all superhero movies. I'm not going to say it's my favorite or the best, but I definitely remember it and really think it's well done with the bullet counting, with
I love that device.
I love that whole bit. And something I love about the Deadpool movies is Deadpool lives in Vancouver, Canada, and it's very blatantly Vancouver, Canada. Like they use Vancouver to film a lot of things, but then they like CGI to make it not look like that. But I think Ryan Reynolds is from there, right? I know he's from Canada, but
yeah, I believe
I think he's from Vancouver too. And I used to live in Vancouver, so I know where all this stuff is. And I used to pass by where specifically that highway is all the time and be like, "This is Deadpool Highway," and I really like that.
All right, where do you guys want to put Deadpool 1 compared to the two Wolverine movies we talked about so far?
I'd probably put it at 1.
Yeah, I would be fine with 1. I was going to say at lowest it would be 2. But yeah. I think from start to finish, Deadpool 1 is just really good. You're like, that was really fun and enjoyable. And not that the Wolverine isn't, but it's just, it sets out and achieves everything it needs to do.
Yeah, I think both the movies, like the Wolverine and Deadpool, are probably really close in my mind.
Yeah.
But I would give it to Deadpool because it's just a lot of fun to watch. And the Wolverine is going for more of a dramatic movie, which is totally fine. But when you're going for something dramatic, maybe I need to be moved more than with Deadpool. You're just having a great time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I would put Deadpool number 1 on this list so far. For sure. All right, so unanimous. Moving on then. Back in the dramatic sphere. Logan, 2017. As Deadpool says at the start of Deadpool 2, rides on his coattails, goes with the R rating. Super satisfying to see an R-rated Wolverine movie.
It needed to be. It needed to get there. I mean, a character with knives for hands who's constantly stabbing people. How did it take that long?
He never chopped a single guy. Well, he chops off Deadpool's head in
and then somehow there's
X-Men Origins.
There's no blood from that.
Nope.
Shout out to that PG-13 rating.
I think Logan rules. This is, yeah. I don't even think this is a hot take, but I think that it is the best performance that Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart gave as their respective characters across however many movies they did. I mean, it's a lot for both of them.
It's one of the best performances in superhero movies in general. I keep saying that, like bringing it to all of superhero movies, but I think it's relevant, you know what I mean? Because I think Deadpool and Wolverine stand a little bit separate and a little bit on their own in the grand scheme of the superhero genre. And this is also what I was talking about with the last one, where I was saying with drama, right? It needs to really move you to get to that next level. And I think Logan is what I'm referring to. It's just amazing.
Yeah, we talked about how X-Men Origins kind of wants to be a character study for Wolverine. There are a lot of scenes of just Logan looking at his fucked up body from everything he's been through. One of the most heartbreaking things about the movie to me is the fact that Charles thinks that Logan is the reason that they're in the position that they're in. Mm-hmm. He doesn't remember what happened, but he thinks it's Logan's fault. And he's just like, sure, I'll let Charles take it out on me. I'm not going to tell him he did it.
Yeah, he's used to being the guy who's been blamed. He knows what it's like. He can handle it.
And the fact he's still doing everything he can to protect and save Charles, and as well as protect everyone else by trying to get that boat to take them out into the middle of the ocean so he can't harm anyone else anymore.
Dude, the seizure in the casino, one of the coolest set pieces in comic book movies, I think. The way that they shot that with the shaky cam and everybody is not moving. One of my favorite moments is the first guy that Wolverine's about to stab, and he's frozen, but his eyes look over at him as he's like clawing his way up the wall.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh, this guy's about to get got.
And he does.
As we've been talking about the Wolverine movies too, I think as it goes on, we're talking about the writing gets better, the drama gets better, but also visually they get better. Like visually, this movie is incredibly shot and very beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing that's interesting about this one too is the talking about how the continuity makes no sense. It's set in the
Fox,
future,
baby.
it's set in the future years past the events of the other X-Men movies. And it really did, I think, want to be free of the baggage and just focus on the characters of Logan and Charles and their relationship with each other and the ability for Logan to reconcile being a hero and living up to Charles's expectations without getting the credit for it, which I think is a really cool character study. Because I mean,
Yeah.
one of the other most devastating things about the movie,
I know what you're going to say. I was just thinking it too.
Go ahead. What were you going to say?
You're going to say when he thinks that the other clone Wolverine kills Charles,
right,
and then Wolverine gets to him. He's like, it wasn't me. Like,
yes,
that's the most devastating part of the entire
brutal
movie.
Yeah, brutal.
Charles is the person who he cares about more than anybody else in the entire world. The only person who's ever shown him that level of kindness, right?
Yeah.
And to think that, in his mind, to think that that person thought that he killed him,
right,
is devastating.
And it really breaks him. But then ultimately, he still makes the decision to be the hero at the end of the day. It's cool. Yeah. It works really well.
It's so well done.
Daphne Keane is great in this movie too, to shout out some of the other performances. I mean, we're hyping up Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart. They're great. I also think Boyd Holbrook is a great villain.
Really good.
Really underrated in this movie.
He has an energy that where you're like, fuck this guy.
Yeah.
He's just that annoying person that you're like, okay, when it's like you appreciate when he's on screen, but at the same time you're like, this guy's such an asshole.
Stephen Merchant's really great as Caliban too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Daphne Keane too does a great job, to shout her out again, of just not having a lot of dialogue and having to deliver a lot with her physical performance.
Well, and Hugh Jackman's performances across every performance of Wolverine is so stellar. For her to go up against that and to be a mirror of his character was not an easy task, right? And she really does knock it out of the park. Yeah. Like, it is good to give her credit.
The scene that comes to mind when you think of that is after she takes him to get patched up again by another vet, and they start arguing in the car, and she actually starts speaking in
Spanish.
Speaking Spanish.
Yeah,
yeah. You speak this whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
And they just go back and forth, and then eventually Logan concedes. And he's like, "Fine, I'll take you to North Dakota."
Them teaming up too, the fight at the end with the two of them slicing people up, is very satisfying.
His death, Logan's death, feels well earned for this character at this point. We've been following for 17 years, and yeah, it just felt so earned. And Hugh Jackman and Daphne Keane were both so good in that scene. And he's like, "Don't be like me, be better." It's so good, and I don't know. It was such a good scene and like a perfect ending.
Well, and like what Xander was saying before too, the tragedy of Logan, especially in this movie, but in all of it, but really especially in this movie, is that how does he see himself? Not that he doesn't want to help, it's that he thinks he won't be any help. He thinks he's going to bring more bad than good. Yeah. Right. And
that's what. Yeah. Everyone who gets close to me gets hurt. That's what he thinks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he needs to suck it up. You know what I mean? And do the right thing. Despite that, despite the trauma. And then at the end, he does the ultimate sacrifice, and he is a hero, like he has been all along, and a hero to kids in the eyes of somebody who's innocent. And he lets all of the kids, not just her, because there's all the other mutant kids that he saves too, go on and live their lives and have all these futures, and he sacrificed himself for that. And her putting the cross down as the X to be he was the hero all along that he wanted to be. He thought he wasn't, but he always was.
Yeah.
Like it's so well done. It's one of the best, like honestly, one of the best movies I've ever seen. I love that movie.
Yeah, it's great.
So good.
Top of the list for me.
It has to be.
Yeah, it's pretty easily, I think.
The list as it stands then: Logan, Deadpool, The Wolverine, X-Men Origins Wolverine.
No. Space. X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Moving on to the next movie, Deadpool 2, 2018.
Deadpool 2 is a weird one for me. I like the movie. I think it's a really fun time. But I also feel like it's very similar to the first one in the beats that it goes along. And I don't know that it does it better. Or I think it doesn't do it better, I should say. The thing that I do enjoy about it is I like all of the X-Men stuff in it. there's a lot of like Ryan Reynolds being an X-Men fan, or the people who made the movie, not just necessarily him, being X-Men fans, putting cameos in, but not just cameos, like characters in it. Like the Juggernaut reveal is one of my favorite parts of the movie. Yeah. Cable being in it is great. Domino in it is great.
I love Domino. The X-Force bit, I actually really like. X-Force,
that's the best part of the movie. That's the most memorable part.
Them assembling a team for them to all die before the mission even starts, except for Domino.
The entire bit is good.
Yeah,
him interviewing the people is great. Yeah. Them being in the plane, Peter as a character, amazing.
Dopender wanting to be on the team, and then Peter gets on the team, and Dopender just goes, "Fuck!"
Yeah.
Is iconic.
That whole scene where he's like, "Oh yeah, I just saw the ad, so I decided to come. Do you have any powers? I have type 1 and type 2 diabetes." And he just goes, "You're in." That joke is so funny.
I also we shout out Domino. Zazie Beetz is an amazing Domino, and her bit where Deadpool is going, how is luck even a power? That's like the dumbest. Whatever comic book writer came up with, that's like the dumbest idiot ever, and it's definitely not cinematic as she's doing everything perfectly. That's a great bit. I love that.
Well, but that entire bit from them interviewing the people to the point where they find Juggernaut is the best part of the movie, I think. Like,
absolutely.
That is a great part. I think a lot of the other parts are a little bit weaker to me. I think there's two things, honestly. The one-liners are kind of weak in this movie. I think there's
definitely not as strong as the first one.
There's like 2 or 3 dubstep jokes, and I feel like when this movie came out, it was like 8 years after dubstep was a funny thing. And I also feel like, I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion, I don't think Cable works that well in this movie. I understand the element of like you have annoying Deadpool and then you have this gruff character. It's the same thing they did in Deadpool and Wolverine. I think much better in that one, that dynamic. But I just think Cable feels kind of thrown in, and it's just like, yeah, I'm here, I'm supposed to kill this kid because in the future it becomes really bad. And it's like, okay, but I don't know. It's something about it feels like the suspension of disbelief is not there for me.
I feel like Cable is just there because Deadpool and Cable are like very synonymous together in the comics. And they're like, we want to include Cable. But I think it's just I feel like the story is kind of weaker in Deadpool 2 compared to the first one, just because Cable has the purpose of like, yes, he wants to kill this kid. But at the same point, it's like, I mean, Deadpool in the beginning says it's a family movie, and then at the end you see he has like his X-Force family and everything, but it doesn't really feel earned as much as it should.
I agree. I'm glad that you also share this, because there's just something weird about it that it doesn't totally nail. Cable comes back and he's like, I'm gonna kill this kid, and Deadpool's whole thing is like he wants to save the kid. You never actually feel like Cable's actually gonna kill him. I feel like the stakes are not very high.
Well, it goes back to what we talked about earlier a little bit, where there's a problem with Deadpool and Wolverine as characters, where Cable can't be trying to kill Deadpool because Deadpool is unkillable. So you have to introduce...
I also don't ever feel like he's going to kill the kid, though. You know what I mean?
But you have to introduce... The kid is almost treated as a MacGuffin.
Yeah.
You're right.
Where he's
as somebody who could die.
As someone who could die, who Deadpool is trying to save.
It's overly complicated, too, right? Because the movie starts with his girlfriend dying, which we haven't even mentioned. And that's also part of why he wants to die and part of why he wants to save the kid. But then Cable wants to kill the kid. But then also the villain is the pedophiles, but also Juggernaut's there, and then Cable's good, and also they form X-Force. Like, there's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
I think where the first movie was successful in being simple, this one gets overcomplicated.
Yeah, because all of that stuff happens within like a 30 to 40 minute period within the movie. Very cool that they did Juggernaut right, though.
Yeah, comic accurate.
No, I love Juggernaut in it. Yeah,
comic accurate Juggernaut is cool. When he rips him in half, that's good.
Yeah.
You like the basic instinct Deadpool.
Yeah, I was gonna say that scene where he has the baby legs is pretty funny.
Too. I mean, we're bashing on it a little bit, but I do really like the movie. I think it's a
fun
good movie.
I think the ending is good. I like his ultimate sacrifice, where the kid is not gonna, Russell is not gonna be convinced that anybody cares about him until a guy who can't die actually sacrifices himself and dies for him. Yeah. And I do think it's one of the funnier scenes in the movie where Deadpool just won't die. He just keeps he keeps trying to get his last words in and just like leans back like he's gonna die, and then he goes, "No, it's not coming. I don't know."
It's like, I didn't realize it was gonna take so long.
And the turnaround of Cable ultimately saving him is, I do think that part is pretty satisfying.
And then the post-credit scene was really good too.
The time travel stuff at the end of the movie is hilarious and amazing.
Yeah.
Especially the part where he kills himself reading the script for Green Lantern.
Yeah. You're back in Canada.
That's so funny.
All right, where are you guys putting Deadpool 2?
I would probably put this one, so that this is number 5. I would probably put this 4 for me. I don't think it's better than the Wolverine and the original Deadpool.
Is 4, what's 4 under? The Wolverine?
The Wolverine.
Yeah.
That's what
I would put it there too. And the reason would just be because I feel like it's very similar to the first movie, but not as funny.
Yeah, I actually really struggle with all 3 Deadpool movies to distinguish how I feel about them. I kind of feel the same about all of them. I like all of them. I don't love any of them. They're not my favorite superhero movies. Yeah, they're all pretty similar to me.
It's consistent.
I could rank them all like interchangeably with each other. So I think for me, I would put it above the Wolverine because I would put it with Deadpool 1. I just kind of feel like they're around the same level, but I'll be outvoted and we can go down below. Last up on the list, brand new, sweeping the nation, Deadpool and Wolverine. We always assume that if you're listening to this, you've seen the movies. Now, this is a new movie, so spoiler alert, we're not going to do spoiler free. We're going to talk about the movie candidly and how we feel about it and how we want to rank it. So if you've not seen the movie yet, don't listen to this. Go watch the movie and come back and listen to this bit. Anyway, what do you guys think about Deadpool and Wolverine?
I can't believe it was just a Cyclops solo movie, actually. You know, that was pretty crazy.
Dude, I can't believe it was a shot-for-shot remake of Thor Dark World.
That was insane.
I heard that I read an interview that's one of the pitches that Ryan Reynolds gave was that they just do
crying.
Yeah, they just do a shot-for-shot remake of Thor Dark World for the first act, which is insane.
That'd be crazy.
Somehow I feel like that might be better than Thor the Dark World we got.
It would be, of course it would be. It would be funnier.
I will say, to start with, to harken back to like how we were talking about the intro for the original Deadpool is really good. I really liked the intro for Deadpool and Wolverine. I thought it was fun and it was a clever use of music and Deadpool utilizing Logan's decomposed corpse.
Yeah,
I thought it was just
it's my favorite action scene of the movie. I think it's a good one.
But overall though, did you guys like the movie?
I did.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
It was fun.
I liked it.
Yeah, I think it's a classic of turn your brain off, popcorn flick, have a good time and laugh. If you think about the plot too much, you're gonna go, what the fuck?
This is a weird movie to get into it.
Yeah.
Like, yes. I just saw it, so I'm still processing it. I feel like I have never seen a movie in my entire life that is for more of a niche audience than this movie.
Totally.
And I think all 3 of us happen to fall into the exact niche that they are going for, which is probably people who watched all of the Fox movies in the early 2000s and have nostalgia for that, and also like Deadpool
and the ongoings of the MCU.
Yeah.
Like, this is such a small percentage of people that this movie is for that I'm surprised it got made.
I don't know how this movie's gonna hold up on like repeat viewings because I'm
gonna like it.
It'll probably be good, but how is it gonna age? Because it kind of leans so heavily onto the cameos of the people that show up from these past movies. Like, kids that are like younger now, when they see it in 10 years, they're not gonna have that same sort of connection and like, oh my gosh.
I agree with you, but kids now don't get it. You're telling me kids now know who watch the Elektra movie and know that that's on Daredevil is where Jennifer Garner and Ben Affleck met, and that's why. Like, I loved that joke.
That joke is one of the best jokes in the whole movie.
I don't care. Like, so funny.
It's fine.
But also,
I'm so sorry.
But also, 95% of people do not get that joke.
Absolutely agree.
No.
And Channing Tatum being in the movie, you have to know so much niche shit to understand.
You have to be aware of the industry.
Yeah, you don't even have to have watched the movies. You have to be further than that. You have to know that he always wanted to make a Gambit movie. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, I think this movie is like you said, Johnny, super niche. It's super inside baseball. I mean, I think a criticism a lot of people level at the Deadpool movies, and I think rightfully so, if it doesn't work for you, again, I already said this, but Ryan Reynolds puts a lot of himself into the movies.
Yeah.
So he's almost just Ryan Reynolds. It's like Ryan Reynolds playing Ryan Reynolds, just wearing the Deadpool costume. It's very much leaning into something that's so niche and so specific. And again, jokes I really liked that I'm with Tristan. I don't know how they're going to age. One of my favorite jokes in the movie is when they're in the TVA and he turns around to Wolverine and he goes, "Hey, welcome to the MCU. You're kind of joining at a low point."
That was one of the best jokes of the whole movie.
Iconic. But then, like Tristan said, flash forward 10 years when you don't know the context of what the MCU was like at a certain time and you're not up to date on how people are critically responding to things. It's weird. It's a weird thing to put in a movie. I do really like, though, in doing all of this, it really stayed separate. It's not even an MCU movie. It's really a Fox versus
I thought it was going to be him being in the MCU, but it's not at all.
The only scene in the MCU is when he goes and talks to Happy Hogan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's basically just a Fox love letter, which is kind of cool. Like you said, Johnny.
Fox thing.
Yeah. Like you love the Fox movies. We like the Fox movies. So
I love them.
it's a big celebration of that, and I think it has a lot of fun. I don't love the action in it. I think it's really repetitive watching Deadpool and Wolverine fight each other to no end. I can only see Deadpool get stabbed in the dick one time before I'm bored of it.
That's my big complaint about this movie. It's visually the worst one by far. The sets were not that good.
I appreciate that they were practical sets. I like that because I have a huge problem with Marvel lately with all the digital sets. Like I like that the 20th Century Fox broken logo was a real thing that they were fighting in front of. But yeah, it's like not super visually interesting.
Yeah, it wasn't. I like that they were practical, but I just think the action set pieces were not that good.
I thought the opening fight sequence was good, and then the one in the car was probably the two best ones.
I agree. The car one was funny. I thought that was a funny idea.
Yeah, we should also mention, because we did tease it a bunch, the timeline of this movie makes no sense. The plot is so bizarre.
Yeah.
They say that his anchor
Logan
being
stuff
died, but Logan is set in the future, which it never felt like it was in the Deadpool universe, but even if it was, Logan dying hasn't happened yet. How did he get to Happy Hogan in 616? Because he had a time travel device, not the multiverse. The movie is all over the place with the plot. I hate the TVA. I don't like them as a concept.
It's so stupid.
But again, I'm in it for the fun. I'm in it for the fun of it.
I accept it. The movie's hilarious, I think.
Yeah, it's a fun movie.
Yeah.
I like Hugh Jackman being back. I don't. We really hyped up Logan, and I really like Logan. I think it's a little bit silly to come back and just have the exact same character arc as Logan for the exact same reason.
That's what I was thinking.
The same character basically goes, "I really need you to show up for me," and he goes, "I'm not a hero," and she goes, "You will be," and then he goes, "You're right, I will be," because that's what I did last time.
It's literally the same emotional arc he goes through in Logan, except
and it's just not earned in this one.
Yeah, it's not as well done compared to Logan.
No, it's true. But what I will say is that Hugh Jackman's very good in the movie. And I think, and when I was complaining about Cable, I think Hugh Jackman as Wolverine is a way better version of that same dynamic.
Yeah, he's the serious foil.
I think that he really nails it in the way that Josh Brolin's Cable didn't for me. I think that some of his acting in it is excellent. And I also think that his performance as this different Wolverine, which is a Wolverine we've never seen before, actually feels like a different Wolverine, which I got to give him props for, because he's played the character so many times, and to play it where it's similar but also it feels like a different version was probably not easy, and I think he did a really good job.
Yeah. We also have to shout out that we get him in the costume finally.
Loved it.
Costume looks amazing. Costume designers kicked it out of the park on this one. So
Deadpool's costume was incredible too.
But both of their costumes were really good.
The cowl was practical, at least at some parts. I saw a behind the sets photo literally today of Hugh Jackman wearing the cowl in that last sequence, and I was like, that's sick. Why have we not had this?
It looked good. It looked great.
Yeah, looked great.
I thought the music usage in this movie was really good too, in Deadpool and Wolverine. Yeah, they used a lot of popular Madonna tracks, but yeah, it fits so well with the character of Deadpool and like the zany, wacky things he's doing.
I did like too, and I'm sure you like this, Johnny, the good riddance for the montage of the Fox behind the scenes. I think it's a cool celebration.
That was really good.
And it shows, we said Ryan Reynolds is really passionate about the character. And I think Hugh Jackman's really passionate about Wolverine, and it
Yeah.
shows a bit that the creative team on this was trying to celebrate. You know, they're poking fun at the Fox universe in a lot of ways in this movie, but also just being like, hey, look at all these people that made all these movies for so many years that led to this. And I do think that's ultimately pretty cool.
I totally agree. And that's where I felt this movie really worked, was that the plot is not that good. And it has a lot of plot holes and structure is not very good, whatever. But Deadpool, played by Ryan Reynolds, and Wolverine, played by Hugh Jackman, they put a lot of effort and they put a lot of care into the characters, and it really comes through. And if you're a fan of these movies and these characters, it's really an enjoyable, fun watch.
Yeah, definitely.
You can see how much fun they're having finally being able to make this movie together.
Where do you guys think you'll put Deadpool 3?
It's really weird. It's fresh in my mind, so then it makes me like it. But I feel like I feel like maybe I enjoyed myself more than Deadpool 2. Like, it's more fun and more, like, shockingly fun. But the plot in Deadpool 2 is better. But I think I would put it above Deadpool 2. I mean, I might change my mind later.
I think that's fair.
I think they all are very similar level to me. I think they all have different
Deadpool
strengths.
1 is a big step above the other ones. For me personally, I think Deadpool 1 is a big step up.
Yeah.
But I'm with you where like the plot is better in 2. This one's a bit funnier than 2. The action's better in 2. So like, you know, there's different things to like about both of them.
Ask me after I see this movie, Deadpool and Wolverine, like twice, and my rating for this could swap. But I'm with Jonnie that I think I'd probably put it above Deadpool 2, at least right now. So I think that would be 4.
So below the Wolverine.
Yeah, because it's very fun, and I don't think the fun factor, at least like we've talked about several times, for like us, because like Jonnie said, this movie feels like it was definitely made for the people that grew up with the Fox movies and the MCU.
I'm not knocking points away from this movie for being niche, because I fall within the niche, and I'm only gonna rank things from my perspective.
The tagline of the show is objectively in our opinion, right?
Yeah, and from my perspective, I feel like this movie was made for me, and I enjoyed it. It's hilarious and a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think I said it already, but I'm not super into the edgelord Deadpool humor. I'm not like a huge fan of the dick and ball jokes all the times in it. This movie was really heavy on the self-referential MCU Fox universe jokes, which I really liked and had a really good time with. So I think that helped me find a really funny movie and a really enjoyable movie. So I think I would put it above Deadpool 2. So the Rats on Film, objectively in our opinion, list for Deadpool and Wolverine. Starting from the bottom, X-Men Origins Wolverine, Deadpool 2, Deadpool and Wolverine, The Wolverine, Deadpool, and the big cheese, Logan.
Good
the
list.
Definitive list. It's the perfect list.
And Logan's the big cheese.
Oh yeah, it's big time cheese.
And X-Men
Big
Origins
time cheese.
Wolverine is the
Big time no cheese.
Mold.
Smelly.
Yeah.
Smelly.
It's mold.
Moldy, rotten cheese. And we're not talking about that blue cheese that some freaks like a bad moldy one that people don't like.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to Rats on Film, everybody. We will be back in 2 weeks to talk about another list. In the meantime, tell a friend about the show. Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow us on social media, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Rats on Film Pod. We'll post this list on Letterboxd and all the future lists we make. And yeah, we'll be back soon to talk about some more movies. Bye, everybody.
Bye.